Hey again, it's Sarah. I'm glad to have you back again for another story with the Universal Design Project. Mike and Dana Ritter are going to share their story today. Right off the bat, you're going to see what a fun couple they are. Mike has had a spinal cord injury since 1994, and he has a lot of great tips on how to make things designed more universally. Can you imagine not being able to get into a shower your first 8 years of marriage? They will talk a lot about how they love their home. You'll get to see a few clips of it and why it's so functional for them, and it actually looks seamless and it doesn't look medical at all. Thanks again for listening, and I am sure you're gonna learn a lot of great tips from Mike and Dana. Enjoy!
My name is Michael, and I am the house spouse.
The house spouse. Nice.
I'm Dana, and I'm a journalist.
And so, Mike, tell me, or Michael, what do you prefer, actually?
Depends on who it is.
Yes. Yes. No, I know a lot of times spouses do the full name, and then
I just
other people.
ask him what does your mother call you? He said Michael. So
Michael.
that's what I go with.
So, Michael, tell me a little bit about kind of how you were injured, how long has it been, kind of that story.
I broke my neck in high school in June of '94, and I was a member of a performance ministry team with my youth group, and I was doing a gymnastics performance where I over-rotated, landed on my face, and broke my neck. We were in the Bahamas at the time.
Oh, wow.
I was medevaced from there to Miami, where they immediately went to work, fixed my neck, put everything together, and then I began my long rehabilitation through the summer. And this was the summer before my senior year, so I spent that entire summer in rehab, in physical rehab, not celebrity rehab.
Right.
And I was doing the exercise and everything so that I could get back to life. And the day that they released me from rehab, I put on my school uniform and went right back into my senior year.
Did you really?
And it was really, really good to be back in my life, in my world.
So what was some of the hardest parts about rehab? Like just relearning how to do things?
Honestly, the hardest parts, let me think of the three hardest days. The first was the day that I was being pushed around toward the beginning, and I still had a diaper on, and I was wearing some shorts over that, and I had a collar on, and I was physically unable to do much of anything, and I just felt so pitiful. Mm-hmm. At that point, I couldn't even scratch my nose.
Sure.
The next toughest day, I would say, the next toughest phase was going through the withdrawals from being away from my friends. Mm-hmm. They would come and they would visit, but there were so many times that I was isolated from them, and I felt that.
Sure.
And finally, my worst day was getting ready to discharge, and they insisted on me sitting in and trying out a power chair to discharge with. Mm-hmm. And I had worked so hard on not needing a power chair. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be dependent on it, nor did I want the stigma of having a power chair. And when they finally transferred me back into my chair and I was able to be alone in my room, I laid over on the bed and I was sobbing. And my physical therapist came in and said, "Michael, what's wrong?" And I told her. She said, "I won't make you sit in that thing again." I was discharged with a power chair, and I used it a little bit, mm-hmm. But it pretty much gathered dust until I traded it in.
And so what was the reasoning behind that, a manual chair versus a power chair?
Stubbornness. Mm-hmm. Basically, it was stubbornness. I wanted the autonomy of having a manual chair. I did not want to rely on mm-hmm. a power chair.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And I know based on housing things, it's just a lot easier to, power chairs are so heavy. And so to be able to get, a power chair in your house versus a manual chair, I mean, some of the things are similar, but power chairs are just super heavy. And then you're not using your arms as much. And so you don't get as much of a workout too. So.
We were fortunate. Our church, school, basically our whole life community was in our church. Mm-hmm. And that chair, they discharged me with the chair. We found a stairwell at the church to plug that chair in. And seriously, there were like maybe 3 or 4 times that I used that power chair.
Wow.
But people in my environment, in my community, just accommodated me and were willing to push me between classes if I needed it. Otherwise, it was just the teachers gave me leeway. It was like, okay, Mike might be 10 minutes late to class, but he's pushing himself down the hall, and they would listen for me to knock on the door when I finally got to class.
Cool.
Yeah.
So now, did your family have to do anything different to your home for you to be home, to get home and to live there?
Oh my goodness, yes. We actually lived in a condo, and it was all carpeted, shag carpeting, even in the bathroom. So me and my teenage brother sharing a condo with shag. Yeah.
2 teenage
Sounds
boys.
like it worked out for the best.
Yes, get the best stuff.
Fortunately, a couple in our church were able to. They had inherited a home, and it was fairly accessible.
Okay.
And so we moved in, and we were naive. We were like, "Oh my goodness, it's going to be ready for us." And we get in, and the house was not ready. It had been lived in for a good 40 years, and so we moved in, and we thought we were going to move right in, and there were a lot of things that we needed to have adapted, and we reached out to some state agencies that helped us with doing the roll-in shower, and doing pouring landings so that I could get in and out more independently.
Out of the house?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so when it came down to it, after we did do quite a few modifications, then the house was comfortable for our family.
Nice. So it took time, but eventually you were able to get there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So you guys, when did you guys meet in this whole process?
We met when I was in college. I was on a trip to Florida, which is where he was out of college at that point. So we met briefly, and then got back in touch online a few years later. Stayed in touch. This is the short version.
Sure.
Stayed in touch for like 8 years. Dated long distance, and then eventually got married. And then he moved from Texas here to DC when we got married.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you were hunting for homes, now a married couple, I mean, did you find that it was easy to find a home that met your needs, or was it difficult?
It was difficult. Yeah. That first time, so I had been living here.
Have we actually found a home that meets all our needs?
We've been married almost 9 years, and no. We haven't found it. We've not found the perfect home. We're closer now than we ever have been, but that first place that we lived together, so I lived in an apartment that was a 1-bedroom apartment when I was single. And then when we were about to get married, I knew I had to move out of that building. It was an older building, and it was a high-rise. The elevator was fine getting into the apartment, but every time he came to visit, I had to have the maintenance guys take the bathroom door off of the hinges so that he could get in and out of the bathroom. Otherwise, he literally couldn't go to the bathroom. But like, who wants to go to the bathroom without a door? So that wasn't like, we knew we weren't going to be able to live with that. So, and we also wanted to have more space since there would be 2 of us. So we ended up moving out into the suburbs. So that made for a really long commute to work, like an hour and a half every day.
Sure.
But it did have, and it had carpet, but we pulled the carpet up. And remember that first floor that we had?
Oh, concrete slab.
It was it's just the floor without, it wasn't like a floor, it was just a slab.
Just a slab.
It wasn't even sealed.
Yeah, so we painted it, we tried to make it look cute,
Homey.
but it really just felt like we were living in a garage the whole time, and it was pretty awful. And the bathroom was accessible in that you could get in and out of it, but he didn't have a shower at home until we moved into this place, so that was 8 years of marriage with no shower unless we're at a hotel or something.
Yeah.
So
that's a big
that's
deal.
pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I have. I remember working as an OT, and there were people that would go stay at a hotel just so their spouse couldn't get in the shower. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's just not something everybody thinks about.
Yeah, you don't think about that. And I mean, I don't like to go more than like a day without an actual shower. So I can't believe that.
Right.
I can't imagine living that long. Eventually, when we bought our first home, it was more accessible than anything we had before, and we made a few modifications ourselves, but we didn't live there that long, and we never actually modified that shower.
The house that you guys live in now is, I mean, when you come in here, it doesn't look accessible. What people would sometimes think of accessible, see medical equipment and things like that. So I think that's very unique. And a thing about universal design is what universal design is you walk in and it works for you based on the features. And so what parts of the home do you guys want to mention about that are really universal, accessible for you?
It starts it starts from the sidewalk. You come to the sidewalk, there are push buttons. You push the button to get into, and every door to here has a push button, and
Nice.
throughout the entire facility. Inside our apartment, things are wider. The flooring is really easy to roll on.
Easy to clean.
Even the Berber carpet is easier to
Tightly
roll on.
wound, and it's easy to clean, easy to roll on. The thresholds aren't a big deal, so we don't have to worry about all the dog hair collecting on the thresholds. And the doorknobs are handles, which look nice, and he's able to use. And
What about laundry?
oh yeah, that's
It's
interesting.
wonderful. There's a laundry. They did a 2-in-1 washer dryer,
Okay.
which is great, or awful, because I can
We
actually
can
do it
the
all.
laundry.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your perspective.
It's great. I can do laundry, or crap, I can do all the laundry.
I get to do laundry.
Yes.
Thank you, design. What do you think about in the kitchen? The island is just a little bit lower than standard counter height, and it's great. I'm 5'2", works great for me. And there aren't any things that look like you said, like medical equipment.
Sure.
It's all beautiful design, and the same materials that were built in that were used to build in the other apartments, like the granite countertops and the kinds of faucets. The design is really pleasing to the eye. And when I saw the microwave in the kitchen and I saw that it was lower, I thought, this is gonna be good.
Awesome.
Then I went around the corner and I saw the roll-in shower, and I was like, we're gonna take it. And then I was like, oh, how much is this place?
Yeah.
It was literally the absolute top of our budget for our apartment.
Yeah.
But it has been worth it, and it's a game changer for our life to be able to live comfortably and shower like a human in America.
And your bathroom is a little bigger than
My bathroom is obscenely huge.
That's
It's
awesome.
huge, though. It's probably a little overdone. The bathroom is enormous.
But there's plenty of room. I mean, most people look for a master bathroom that two people can easily get in it, and you guys have that plus the extra
We
room
could do
to
the interview in there.
Nice.
Great acoustics. Lighting is a little too...
Yeah, it's a little dark in there.
But I think the only place that feels more clinical is my bathroom, and that's because the bathroom has the roll-in shower is beautiful. The tile work is wonderful. There's a fold-down bench that is actually, anyone would love it. There's an adjustable height shower head, yeah. But then there are the grab bars, which that's something that, because of it being mixed use, they are required to have those grab bars. They have to put them in, and they are around the commode, around the shower.
I'll say that I use them all the time to dry towels.
Me too.
So we'll hang washcloths or towels on them, and it's great because I don't have anywhere like that for my bathroom, or I even like to use like the Norwex cloths to clean with.
Yeah.
And they need to air dry, and so they're always air drying on those. I appreciate them.
Yeah, no, that's when we don't have any grab bars in our apartment, but when we stay in a hotel and I'm like, oh, I've got all of this great space to hang things, and a lot of times you get in a home and they just have one towel bar and one thing for your hand towel, and that's about it. So
they're useful.
For multiple reasons.
Yes.
There you are.
Yeah. Where you guys are, you're really close to public transportation. You're close to grocery stores, and I mean
Coffee shops, 2 coffee shops.
Yes, very
basic
important.
survival really.
And so it makes it easier for you to go get stuff if you're not around.
Right. It takes a
that.
lot of pressure
Or if
off
she's
me.
sick.
Yeah, or if I'm sick, or just every aspect of our life living in this environment has been worth the extra money that we spent. And when our family grows and we have to move to a bigger place, it's going to be really hard for us to adjust back to not having all of the conveniences.
So if you had, like, you said this place is great, but it's not perfect. So what other features in a home would be like your dream home? Like this would be super ideal for us.
It's hard to say it without being snooty, you know?
Yeah. Well, I would say one thing are the sinks. Michael doesn't have the ability to roll under the sink. They didn't think of that here. And then from my perspective, I really appreciate that they made all of the closets with the low hanging rods, but to me it's so much unused space for the top, because we still have stuff that needs to be stored. So if it could have an additional rack in the top of the closet, even though it wouldn't be accessible to him, like I would rack that out.
Right.
So those are really minor, like not really. Well, the sink more major than the closet, really. But but it's great. I mean, they even widened the hallway, and it's nice. Like we don't have dents along our walls like we used to. Like I remember magic erasing the hallway, and I'm like, you can't magic erase like chunks that are missing.
I've often said that too. I was like, there's no use for this magic eraser anymore. I think we're actually gonna have to buy paint now, and spackle.
Yeah.
Spackle,
The only place where we still have kind of the denting is a little bit on the edge of the fridge,
Right.
and the front door they'll probably need to put a new door. We move out and they're like, these people will always need a new door.
Right, exactly.
They're just gonna bang through.
To get through. So in terms of what people don't know or don't understand about spinal cord injury, what is one of the things that you wish other people knew about it? Like kind of like day to day, what's different than what normal people would experience?
There are things that there are challenges that I face. Just getting my day started. I'm totally dependent on somebody else helping me from the get-go. And so when I have a home health aide, for instance, the home health aide is there to do a job, and they want to get paid for plenty of work, and so it's hard to find somebody to be here for fewer than 4 hours, and they want to get paid, sometimes $12, $15. So they also don't want somebody nagging them every moment saying, I need you to do this, I need you to do this. Where for me, I just want somebody who's going to be my hands for a certain amount of time, and just to do this for me, and boom, 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 or even to anticipate what I need. And so when I have somebody coming in to do all of this for me, and I have to tell them, okay, now I want this, now I want this, or I have to say, oh, hey, can we change this, or oh, this is uncomfortable, or when something goes awry, when I have an issue with my bowels or my bladder, or I'm just feeling pain, or I'm feeling uncomfortable, or there are so many things that aren't such a big deal if you can just, oh shoot, I have to go change that real quick.
Sure.
And so for me, on the front end of the day, requires so much energy, so that by the time that I get my day started, I'm already had a full day of energy poured into it, and I don't necessarily have 8 hours of energy, 8 hours of focusing
mental
on
energy or physical energy,
anything. And so to do a full-time job, and then to do my stuff coming home. I mean, I know that everybody has to balance personal family, business, but there's so much more with my level of care, my spinal cord injury on this end that really makes it so I don't have much energy to put into work.
So it is kind of like another job. Like you have a couple jobs going on, like your regular work that you do, like caring for the spinal cord injury, and then your work, and then life. We have to live our life.
Yeah, so all it takes is just kind of one wild card thing to not go exactly according to the system, and then the dominoes from that can be extensive.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so at some point we actually anticipate when we see the dominoes starting to fall, we go ahead about 3 steps. We pretty much pull up a few dominoes.
Stop everything else that is happening. Yeah. And it can be something as simple as a rainy day. It's raining. Okay, this totally changes our plans. Because by the time we get somewhere in the rain, we will both be drowned rats, and it's not going to be fun. So, like, we don't do the rain, you know? I think one of the biggest things that people aren't aware of, and one thing I was never aware of until I was in this circumstance, is how much time. Everything takes so much more time than just, I mean, if you think about, like, when I get up in the morning, I wake up, I swing my legs over to the edge of the bed, I stand up. It takes like 0.5 seconds. For Michael to get up in the morning with everything that has to be thought out, every single step that has to be explained and then executed by someone else, it's like 2 hours.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's just, and then the effort, like he was saying, that takes, but also the time, you know, just for us to leave our apartment, walk down the hall, go to the elevator, get in the van, you know, deploy the ramp from the van, get in the car, get the seatbelt on, It's like we walk out of our house and it's like 15 minutes later, we're actually leaving. Whereas if you're walking out of the house, you're going to lock the door real quick and walk to your driveway and get in your car and pull out. Like all of that time has to be accounted for somehow.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that is, I don't think anybody has any idea just how long and how much effort things take to just do simple things. It's totally worth it. It's worth the time and it's worth the effort, but it is both of those things.
Sure. And I've had people say, you know, even if they just had a quick broken bone or something like that, I mean, they're having to set their alarm earlier because they didn't realize how much time it takes. But with all of those things compounded, you are going to be exhausted by the time you get where you need to go. You were talking about your vehicle. So how has transportation changed with the spinal cord injury? Like, when you first had this injury, how did you get in and out of the car?
We were, from the get-go, we had big wheelchair vans. My church pulled together some money, and my family found a wheelchair, a secondhand van with a lift, and old Ford Econoline. We used it for years. It got me through college, and then moved to Arkansas and found a van there, and so we were able to get that van. I paid that one off. It was great. When Dana and I got married, Dana was not loving driving the big red Econoline, and I was. Hold on.
I got stuff to say about the van.
I'm riding, so we're in Texas, and she's driving up front, and I'm sitting in the back,
sleeping.
So she feels like a chauffeur, and yes, that was...
That was kind of true.
It was true. I would fall asleep.
We weren't married yet.
I would fall asleep on the car rides. And so we really actually felt pretty liberated when I was visiting up here one time.
Yeah, that was a big day.
She transferred me independently, picked me up and put me in
my SUV.
And it was really great. And she just, we hugged each other. She was just so happy.
Yeah, I remember I got his butt from one place to the other. And I was so excited that I did it. Someone had come to help us. We had them like there, and then I was like, I'm just gonna try it, but they were there just in case, you know. And I was definitely new to this whole thing. And I got his butt in that seat, and I was like, we're selling the van. Yeah, and then I remember I almost pulled my SUV out of the parking garage without putting the wheelchair in the back. I was so excited.
Yes.
So like, oh, we do still need that.
That's an extra step.
Right. Yeah.
And then there was a couple years down the road from there where we are selling some furniture on Craigslist, and Dana goes to help that lady transfer that into her car, and something shifts, and Dana's back goes.
Hurt my back.
And from then on,
Never the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So then the lifting him in and out of the vehicle, and more so actually lifting the wheelchair in and out of the vehicle, because that was more awkward. Like I could conform his body to how I would need to hold it.
Right.
Wasn't that painful. But lifting that, because I'm like a short person. So picking up the wheelchair without taking it apart, you know, because to me I'd rather be in pain than take the time
Yes.
to take it apart.
I completely understand. If it can stay in one piece.
Right.
I'm
So
good.
that was pretty limiting for us when I started having back pain, because then it was like the quotient of like, is it worth going somewhere, really started to like not even out very well.
Right.
So those were some pretty isolated years.
And then we had friends who were, he was a wounded warrior, and he was getting ready to be discharged. They had received an accessible vehicle, an accessible caravan, and then they were with another organization was able to get them a newer vehicle that was going to be more
Customized
conducive
for
to
their
their
needs.
life. And they were a younger couple, just getting started on their life, so it was great. And they wanted to give us the one that they'd been given,
That's
which was
perfect.
really neat. It was like, by that time, this van was like third or fourth hand.
Wow.
Yeah. Like 11 years old, but in good shape, and
Nice.
we were really grateful. I was ready at that point. I think I spent those early years of our marriage really fighting against anything that was special.
Sure.
I just hated it. Anything that looked special or looked like it had anything to do with a hospital, or like basically the only thing I was willing to tolerate was like the actual wheelchair.
Right.
Other than that, I was like, I'll do it. You don't need this. You know, like we don't need our house to look like a hospital, and
Yeah.
we don't want to have like a Hoyer lift and all this mess.
Stuff.
Yeah, and we went on a trip. We drove from DC to Arkansas, and during that trip, I decided I was ready for a wheelchair van.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is it. Like,
Well, and the amount of times you think about transferring in the day. So getting out of bed, getting into a vehicle. If you make a couple of errands, like, you know, there are times where I know Scott just sits in the car.
Oh,
because
yeah.
I'm like, "Ugh, I just need to run it really quick.
Yeah.
And he hates that because he's like, well, how long is really quick? Right? Like, how long am I going to have to
yeah, and
sit
it also
here?
impacts like feeling like you're actually doing things together.
Yep.
Because it's like, okay, I'm just here, you know.
How does this impact how you do things in the community, your injury?
Sometimes I just don't.
Right. You go with
Literally, yeah. There have been times when it's not worth it. I really do rely on either there being some infrastructure that enables me to get about my community, or I rely very much on that's the physical community, the physical place, or I rely on having a community of people who are available to be, kind of like my bridge to help me to come by and pick me up, toss me in their car,
Sure.
or drive my vehicle. People who are available to go do things with. Fortunately, like we were saying, that this area is extremely accessible. I can go from here to the metro stop in minutes, and I can be in downtown DC and be at a conference in a half hour, and it's wonderful. It's really great. I spoke about back when I was in school, in church and going into college. My goodness, so I didn't have the wheelchair friendly sidewalks and all of that, but I had friends who would just come by and throw me in their car and throw my wheelchair in the back, and we would go and do whatever, and it was all there.
Did you find that your friends were willing to do that? Like help you get in the car, help put your chair in the car? Like, did you have friends that were just kind of like, I'm not sure?
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
I learned to make it okay. I told my friends, no, I'm going to ask you for stuff, and no is okay. If you're uncomfortable with something, that's fine. Sometimes the most somebody would be comfortable with is opening a door or grabbing some food for me. Sometimes someone would help me when I needed it to eat something. Sometimes people would help me go in and take care of stuff in the bathroom, or help me with my care at home so that I could hang out with them, and they just knew that meant that they were going to be bringing me home and getting me in bed and cleaning me up and doing all that stuff. And it was awesome having friends who were willing to do what they could do, and for me to just kind of incorporate them into that whole, my entourage.
Right, yeah. And then that allowed you to be more social and to be in community more, because you had people that were willing to learn and willing to step up where you needed them. So, yeah.
And now I'm married, and Dana does it all.
So we don't do anything.
And so, like, do you guys kind of, I know with Scott and I, we kind of know, like, what's next, like, work in sync, and generally sometimes there's not, like, a lot of talking involved, because we just kind of...
I like it that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
Kind of move through.
Yeah, I think it's a big relief to him. So we have home health care that takes care of his morning routine Monday through Friday. I do it every night, and I do it on weekends. And I know for him, it's like, I don't have to... explain like what a sleeve is, or like tell someone the difference between right and left. I just do it without even thinking about it, unless like something is different. If he's discovered a new way that he likes something done, then that's usually harder for me.
You're like,
than it is for, I'm like,
done it this way.
but I have to think about something like the worm.
Yeah. No, that we found that too. That it's nice to kind of get in a groove, and if things need to be changed, But
and I also think that we're so used to managing everything like that together that we can even do it typically more discreetly, and definitely faster, and it's easier. Even just visiting family who his family obviously has more years. I don't know, actually. I'm kind of racking up the years of experience.
Right. You might
I'm like cross over at some point. But even his family is super familiar and comfortable with his care routines. But I can do it faster, and because then I'm like, if they're doing that, then what am I supposed to do exactly? Like then it's like your role is like what? Just sit on the couch on my phone while someone's in there taking care of you. But I feel like that's kind of what I said I would do.
Right. Like that's what I'm in. Yeah.
Right.
I'm here now. So no, that makes sense. So is there one thing in your community in general, that you would change to make it easier for you to participate in things that you enjoy?
Considering that it's January.
The weather.
The one thing that I would change in my community is the flexibility of home health care. The availability of reliable, affordable, convenient home health care.
I would say just being able to get into other people's houses.
Yes.
For example, we're really active.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Let me be truthful here. We're kind of active in our church. But we would really enjoy being a part of a small group, right? Well, that typically is going to be at someone's house. And no matter what house that is, it's almost 100% chance that we can't get in. Unless it is in an apartment, or it meets at like a Panera, or we host it at our house.
Right. Like
that actually is the only 100% way that we know that we could actually go to the group, is if we just host it ourselves. Well, guess what? We're tired.
That's why we host ours.
And we're at our house a lot. Right?
Yeah.
And so that is something that is really frustrating for us, because we just literally can't go there. And so housing, other people's housing is a big deal. And, you know, like visiting family, going on family vacations with, you know, the rest of our people, just being able to get in and out of places, that would be a really big game changer for us.
Even when we have reservations for a timeshare or a hotel, and our reservations are explicitly, we need the accessible, the wheelchair unit, whatever, we don't always get that. And then it really, you talk about the dominoes, we're out of town.
Right. Yeah, you might not have brought everything you would have needed to be able to stay there comfortably.
It can be, or I can't even get in. It's like, oh yeah, we want the accessible unit, and there are 3 steps to get into this. Oh yeah, somebody was already checked into the one with the ramp. It's like, no, we reserved that 6 months ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no. And so it absolutely throws us for a loop. So if we had some continuity that would say that we didn't have to think about, is there a chance that even though I know that there is that there, that is available, have you given that to somebody who has said, oh yeah, I need accessibility, when they may not require the level of accommodation that I do, that they probably would have been just as well off in the room that I am stuck with. It's just these things where there is no continuity. And so again, for Dana, to her point, it's much easier. We can anticipate what we have in our own little control. And it sounds like we're obsessing over it or control freaks, but we want to just kind of
be comfortable, you know, and I think especially when I just keep coming back to this idea of like a church home group, you know, you're typically stepping a little bit out of your comfort zone anyway, going to someone's house that you don't know, and then it's like, for me, thinking about the drama that is involved in, like, are we gonna have to pick him up out of, and somebody's gonna have to hold him and carry him, and someone's gonna have to hold the door, and now we're gonna have everybody that's inside eating dinner is gonna have to stop what they're doing, come out here, make a scene. Right? Yeah. He may or may not be dropped, right? And that, for me, like, my anxiety level just goes up, and then after he's in the door, then it's like, okay, all right, he can't get in the bathroom, he can't get in the kitchen, I need to get his plate. Yes. I've got to da-da-da-da. So then it's like, I finally sit down. I'm like, oh, hi.
Right. I'm finally.
Hello. And then I'm thinking about the exit strategy, right? Like, we're going to leave and it's getting dark and I don't know what's going on with the steps. And, oh, the van is like, I'm going to have to pull it around. So then we're not going to go.
Right.
Right. It's just, so then we don't have any friends, you know? And I think that is really hard. And also, I think that, you know, I can't say that this has definitely happened, that any of our friends have, like, excluded us for any reason. But it is kind of a lot. Yeah. You know? Yeah. It's kind of a lot to deal with. And, you know, you might just do it once.
Yeah. No, we've had friends where we now just plan to eat out somewhere with them. They have a few children, and our place isn't that big, and so it's hard for them to come to our place because we don't have a lot of room. And it's hard for us to go to their place because there are 8 steps to get in. I mean, we tried it; it wasn't that great. And so we go out, and then eating out is expensive when you have a large family, and so
Red Robin Tuesday nights.
Here you go.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you work it all, and how do you keep those friendships?
Also, there's just kind of this, like, subtle message that's sent that a lot of people may not understand, that's just like, you are not one of us, you know, like, you can sleep in the garage, you know, like, we'll go to my family's house for Thanksgiving, it'll be fun, you know, we'll all come down to the man cave. Okay, like, you know, and then, like, we're gonna call it a night, and we're gonna sleep on the futon in the man cave, and, like, my whole family is still gonna be up for hours upstairs in the kitchen, and we're not there. So it's like, we are part of the family, but then because of that barrier, we can only get so far. And I think just that subtle message over time, it really is, it's hard on relationships.
It really stinks for me because things that were built in like the 70s or before all right, you have, we'll forgive you because that was pre-Vietnam. You know, you didn't have people coming back with all of the wheelchair accessibility, mobility issues. It was a different time. But then from 1980s on, there's still so much that's built that is not accessible, and people really just don't think about it. And I don't expect my friends who are someone who's in the finance industry, and the soccer mom and whatever, she just sees, hey, we can get a McMansion for $250,000. Well, back then we could get a McMansion for $250,000. You know, it's like, yeah, heck yeah, we're going to get it. This is awesome. Our family can live here and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, but they're just getting this wonderful house, have this wonderful opportunity. But it's like, hello, Mr. Builder, why didn't you anticipate, okay, you could have built all of these so that there is stuff that makes it so if somebody needs to come in, so they don't have to think about making their house accessible. You just think about it, you anticipate it, you fix it.
Individuals with disabilities anyway have more have more expenses in general.
Oh, geez.
And so
we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. But like, to compound that with the fact that, you know, this is the most accessible place in our community that we could buy, but we know we're going to have to, you know, throw $30,000-$40,000 into it just to make it work
livable
for me. Right, yeah, so I'm not stuck, so I can get to all areas of the house and not just be like stuck to the bedroom and the living room. Like, I think that's something that's frustrating for when you're even trying to find a new home, that you know that there's an additional cost added onto it.
Or go back to when we were talking about apartments. We were looking at apartments, and it's like every time we would present, look, we would like to put forward to you to do a roll-in shower.
Oh, as a reasonable accommodation.
As a reasonable accommodation. They would say, okay, yeah, you can do that. You have to pay for it to go back to the way it was before. I'm like, no,
I'm renting.
Hello. Yeah. I'm saying, hey, we're gonna work with you to fork out some money to make this a wheelchair accessible roll-in shower, and this is something that you can offer.
You can leave it there.
It's an amenity.
Yeah.
And they're like,
oh
no, you have
showers.
Like, right, it's a thing.
And barrier free. You know, it's like, oh my goodness, why is it that people put in these walk-in showers and it has a freaking 2-inch lip? It's like, why do you need that? Just barrier free. Do a barrier free shower, for goodness sake, if you're going to put it in, because that 2-inch lip means I cannot get my shower chair in there. It's so close and so.
Yeah.
You were so close.
Yeah, exactly. Now, and I think it's the little things. You know, there are some things that, you know, are major that people do think about, but, you know, people with disabilities have things that, you know, if you would just change that little lip, or you would just change or widen this just a little bit, my life would greatly increase, like my ability to do this.
Think about the knobs on the stove. Like, if the knobs on our stove are on the front of the stove, instead of on the top of the back of the stove, game changer.
Right.
Cook safely. Otherwise,
Safely. Whoosh.
Yeah. Otherwise, just a little arm burn.
Right.
You know, no big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well,
and that's something that, like, it's aesthetically pleasing, and anyone can use knobs on the front, but not anybody can use knobs on the back. And it seems so simple. A lot of people probably wouldn't even notice that change was there. But for us, it just gives a lot more independence.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Do you have any advice for people who are interacting with you for the first time and are curious about you? Like, are you open to answering questions about your spinal cord injury? Or
I'm open to it. I think I have electric tape on the LED lights on my wheels right now, because I find people who are curious notice things, like they notice the LED lights on my wheels. Like, oh, what's that? Those are cool LED lights. I'm like, yeah, it's just my power indicator on my wheels. With kids, that's one thing. Or people with like an intellectual disability, it's one thing. but at some point it's like, yeah, or somebody who is like, from an engineering technical standpoint, is like, oh, are those electric motors? That's cool. I can geek out with them about that. But then there's other things. There's certain points where, like for instance, we were into a church. She knows exactly what I'm talking about. We were in line at this barbecue at our church, and I had never met this
really
woman.
Big church.
I don't even know this woman from. I wouldn't know her if I
seen
saw
her
her
in
now.
life.
We are in line waiting for barbecue at church, and she says, "Oh, so can you have children?"
Oh gosh.
And Dana's like, "I'm Dana. This is my
beautiful
husband."
day. So sunny out here.
Wow.
Can you have children?
Let me ask you about your personal,
I was just
intimate
wondering
life.
about how your reproductive organs work. Hello.
Out of nowhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So sometimes people just come up with the most random questions.
People are going to be people, and some people are different. There are just some people that are going to ask weird questions, and I think that, from my standpoint, it just kind of depends on how I feel like dealing with it in that particular day. But I will say that anybody who is just genuinely curious, I'm more than happy to explain anything, any questions that they have, especially children. I think like there have been multiple times that I've seen a little kid like ask a question like, are your legs broken? And a mom kind of grabbed them and be like, no, don't do that. And we always encourage them, no, let them ask. Let them ask questions, because that's the way that they're going to learn. And if parents are sending the message that like that's off limits, then that puts a wall up, instead of just, they normalize it really quickly. Like my little 4-year-old nephew calls a wheelchair the monster truck.
Right.
And the other one's like, I want to ride the monster truck. They, it's fine. Like, but I think that, a lot of times it's the adults that make a big deal out of it, make it not okay to talk about. So,
But then again, I want people to feel free to say, without thinking they're going to offend me, hey, can I give you a hand? If they see me at the grocery store, hey, can I give you a hand? Hey, do you need something? Or something. I don't want you to grab my wheelchair and start pushing me.
It's so weird.
Yeah. Like, oh.
I read something that someone that was a person who used a wheelchair who wrote on a blog that one time they were, I think they were getting into their vehicle and someone came over and helped them get out. And they were like, no, I was getting in.
Oh no.
Yeah, let me help you. And then they just want it to be over quickly, and so they're just like not saying anything, but actually they were trying to transfer like the other way.
Oh gosh. No, we had the same thing happen, and somebody walked from inside the grocery store. I was like loading up the back of the car. He had gotten in and had like one leg in, one leg out, and then this dude just walked over, didn't say hi, bye, anything like that, just started touching his leg and like putting him in.
Bless their hearts.
Yeah. And then Scott's like, whoa, like, what are you doing?
Space, dude.
And then
space.
he's like, I'm good. I do this every day. And then they just walked away. I mean, they were like, what are you doing that?
I know.
And they do mean they mean well, but. I mean, I think
that's hilarious that you guys did that in stereo. That's like the bless their hearts.
Bless their hearts. Yeah, I think another experience for us that is pretty funny is doors. So we're going into a restaurant, right? And I'll open a door for Michael, and then some people like rush along. They start to open the other door. Like we need double doors,
right?
Like
all 8
part
doors.
the Red Sea so that he can like flow through. And people are like getting out of the way. It's like he's not even. So you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And he'll often say like, I'm not gonna run you over.
I'm good.
Yeah. Or even he'll open a door if there's a door that he can push open. He will push the door open for me. Being a gentleman. So he pushes the door open and people are freaking out and I'm like, I'm just gonna walk through now.
Right.
Hello,
like,
everybody.
I knew what he was trying to do.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get to that point though, because I felt like everyone was looking at me like, what are you doing exactly? Like while you're standing there and he's struggling with the door, like I just felt like they were all like,
right,
you're bad.
Yes.
Yeah, until he communicated to me like, hey, I'm opening the door for you and I want to do that for you. And I'm like, you know what? I want you to do that for me too, and that's really sweet. So whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of time that happens, people just are quick to judge, and you know, until they know the full situation, you're like, I'm waiting for my husband to open the door for me.
Oh, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I remember there used to be like, they're opening the door for him, and then I'm like behind him, like carrying everything, my stuff and his stuff, and the door is like boom.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
feeling so valued right now and visible.
Right.
Yeah.
So, oh, we helped the guy in the wheelchair.
Thank you so much. I'm standing here.
At one point, we literally stopped attending church because it was so painful for Dana. She had been attending the church for years, and so here comes Dana and husband, and everybody, oh, Michael, hi, how are you? Blah, blah, blah.
They're talking loud.
And
the whole deal.
Dana is back here, and everything's all Michael, and then like we go, and then like people are shoving stuff to Dana. It's like, oh, here's his this, here's his this,
bulletin
here.
and
Right.
stuff for him. And
Right.
like, I want coffee too.
Right. Exactly.
So we finally, it became so painful. It's like,
Work through all that. Those
It
kind
is.
of that
I mean,
early year stuff.
It is a
but-
process.
there's that balance. It's okay. So we want people to be inviting, accommodating, accepting, but it's like, don't go overboard.
Right.
They're not used to it, you know, and so I think, you know, the best practice is to just give everyone the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
And then, you know, I think I've learned over the years to explain what, like, if there's something that I need or he needs, you know, if you could just keep holding it for me too. Or I'll sometimes just be like, thank you for holding it for me too.
Right.
You know,
Right.
then I think people are open to that, you know, but they're starting from a place of they don't know.
Where we once
So,
started.
Yeah, exactly. So I think for the most part, the best practice is just let them off the hook.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. What do you wish more people knew about you guys?
Sometimes I wish people knew less about it.
I guess you guys have told your story quite a bit.
Yeah, we're pretty open. I wish people knew about us. I would say probably that we're just like everybody else, right? So we have the wheelchair thing going on. We're married like everybody else. We have to manage our household and our finances, and we want to grow our family. And you know, we have opinions about things that are going on in the world around us, and
Sure.
Just like you do. And yeah, we're not that different,
Right.
you know?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, Scott and I have talked about it too, because I feel like, everybody has something going on. Like we've got the wheelchair thing going on, but other people have life things that go on, and we try so hard to be quote unquote normal, but really, is anybody
What does that
really
even mean?
normal?
Right.
But even though the wheelchair presents a lot of new things that don't seem normal,
Or it's
to
just
people.
really visible, right? But like everybody's got their thing.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, even people that have seizures, or there's stuff that people
Or
deal with.
mental
that-
health,
Exactly. And so we all have things that we have to adapt to and deal with in our life.
I think we run into this situation, especially as adults, building relationships. Even when we have kind of a, church can be kind of a ready-mix community, right? But even then, as adults, we all find it difficult to build and maintain relationships.
Sure.
And there are ways that we've already talked about it, where the disability makes challenges to that. Still, I wish people knew that we still want to be included and invited. And it's okay to say, hey, look, we have 10 flights of stairs to our front door, and then 6 flights above that
To the kitchen.
And and then the front door is 3 inches wide. But hey, we want to hang out. So how can we make that happen?
Right.
How can we make that happen? We want to be involved in your life, in your community. So just say, hey, you guys, you look cool. Our world is zero wheelchair friendly, but how do we make it happen? Don't make it incumbent on me to make that. You reach out to me and say, we want to hang out. How can we make it happen?
Yeah.
I remember one of the things that was really touching to me over the last year was I'm a part of a professional organization. They organize a couple of days a year where the whole organization and your spouses are invited to go to a professional baseball game. And so we love to go to those games. And the first time the organization went, For us, we have to get a wheelchair seat, right? So you just can't like sit in the box seats, and it's always like, it's become one of those things where we just expect that we'll be there and we'll be like, hi,
hey guys,
we're up here and you're down there. And they, I emailed the guy who was organizing it and I said, hey, we really want to come. And he had bought like a batch of seats that were all together, and I explained to him, I'm going to need you to see if you can switch out 2 of the seats for us to be able to sit in the wheelchair section. And he was like, oh, sure, no problem. And he called the box office and took care of it. Well then, and I don't even know this guy, like we're on an email list together. Okay. And then the next time later this past year, they were organizing the event, he sent out the email, hey everybody, White House Correspondents Association is going to the baseball game on this day, and the seats are in this section. And he just said that to everybody, and then he forwarded the email to me, and he was like, it's at the top of the section. I didn't ask for them to do that. He learned from that experience and then immediately included us. Yeah. And like, that was actually just so touching. Right. We don't even know these people well. They're not close friends or family. And that went above and beyond what some close friends and family have done. And that was really touching to me to think that he thought about that.
Yeah,
that's really
some
nice.
of those details.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is like heartwarming and kind of like unexpected at times.
Yeah, like we're like really included. Like not just kind of included.
Yeah.
Like actually really, we could even talk to you if we wanted to.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your story, and
well, thank you, and thank you for all that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Go get them.
Mike and Dana really dug into a lot of issues they've experienced living life a little differently due to a spinal cord injury. From their advice on housing to tips on how to be more inviting to people who have different disabilities, they are a fantastic resource and advocate for universal design. Thanks for listening, and I hope you can join us next time for more stories from the Universal Design Project. Bye.